Yeah, but I'm officially 3 for 3 on being fined by the WNBA.
Holy shit. For this? For the pod? Again?
They didn't like my comments on Paige Becker's.
No way.
I didn't even say anything bad.
The noise is only growing. Frustration is bubbling over, and conversations once thought impossible are now being debated openly across social media and sports forums. Fans of Sophie Cunningham have reached their breaking point, and their demands are no longer subtle. They want her voice back. To them, it's unacceptable that she's being muted by an organization seemingly more invested in polishing its image and shaping narratives than in supporting its athletes or fostering genuine, transparent dialogue about what's truly taking place behind the scenes. The patience of her supporters is gone.
She spoke about the league, but more importantly, she stated she got another fine for actually talking about Paige Beckers. Now, we all ultimately know what happened last time. She had her podcast. She let it be known that Paige Beckers got that blue blood whistle, bro. And make a long story short, she stated the WNBA fined her for that. And she spoke about Bree Hartley. She also talked about Caitlin Clark rehab. But guys, it's unfortunate that she will be out for the remainder.
The movement is catching fire, with fans rallying behind Cunningham and urging her to keep speaking out. Their message is simple: if the WNBA is willing to fine players simply for expressing their opinions, then the league has a much deeper problem. This moment has grown far bigger than basketball. It's about principle. Supporters see an organization that's abandoned the very idea of free speech, even when it comes from the athletes who represent them.
So lads, the WNBA have done it. They have done it. They have officially fined Sophie Cunningham every podcast episode. They have fined her because Sophie Cunningham has been fined. I'm not joking. She's been fined for a TikTok. She's been fined now, I think, for the third time for a podcast. I think Sophie Cunningham might be the all-time leader in fines in the WNBA. So let's take a listen.
Sophie Cunningham, now widely regarded as the unapologetic voice of truth in women's basketball, has spoken out against what she describes as a calculated effort to pressure her into silence. Her statements expose the deeper flaws within the WNBA system. What began as straightforward, candid discussion on her podcast has escalated into an outright battle over transparency. Yet through it all, Cunningham has made one thing clear: she has no intention of backing down.
They are not protecting their players. Nobody's going to watch this if you're not protecting your star player. You're not protecting your players, period. But particularly your star players. No one's going to watch this. People are watching it because of Caitlin Clark, and then even more because of Sophie Cunningham. And if you're going to just hang them out to dry, then, good. Nobody's going to watch this anymore because they don't protect their players. It's a worthless organization. They have no idea how to protect their players. But, oh man, they're going to bitch and moan. Well, you better pay us the money. For what? You can't even protect your star players that draw the eyeballs. Now nobody's watching. Nobody's going to watch to see the star players sitting out with injuries because of poor treatment and poor officiating on the sides. Nobody's going to watch that.
If you're enjoying this, make sure to subscribe. What seemed like it would be a routine podcast episode, just a discussion about basketball and life, quickly turned into another chapter in the WNBA's relentless effort to control its own narrative. Sophie Cunningham started her podcast, Show Me Something, with co-host Wes Wilson to create a space for open and honest conversations about the league she plays in. But instead of dialogue, she's found resistance. Cunningham has discovered that in today's WNBA, speaking truth to power doesn't just stir controversy, it carries a hefty price tag.
She has turned herself into a top 5 most talked about player in the WNBA. And can I tell you, I am loving the clips that are coming out of this podcast. There's just so much fascinating elements of her that make her this really alpha, really strong, but really beautiful, spicy villain. And I think she kind of likes being the villain.
I'm officially 3 for 3 on being fined by the WNBA, Cunningham confessed on her most recent podcast episode, her tone heavy with the frustration of someone who has seen her league place control above honesty. They didn't like what I said about Paige Beckers. And truthfully, I didn't even say anything negative. But this time was different. This time, Cunningham made it clear she wasn't going to bow to intimidation. The fines, which feel less like correction and more like suppression, only strengthened her resolve. With every new episode of her show, she's hit with penalties so steep they raise a larger question. Is open, honest discourse even possible in today's WNBA, or has transparency become too costly to afford?
I'm officially 3 for 3 on being fined by the WNBA.
Holy shit! For this? For the pod? Again?
They didn't like my comments on Paige Becker's.
No way!
I didn't even say anything bad.
On the whistle? On the quick whistle?
Yeah. But like, why? Like,
If we want to talk about Paige, here's a good question.
They fined her for saying Paige Beckers has a good whistle. Like, I kid you not, that is one of the craziest reasons I've seen a player get fined.
What unfolded next was unlike anything the WNBA had ever seen. Just days after Cunningham exposed the league's pattern of fines, fans rallied behind her, not only as an athlete but as a fearless voice willing to speak the truth no matter the fallout. Social media lit up with praise, dubbing her the truth teller and demanding the league put an end to silencing players who challenge its carefully curated narrative. When Sophie Cunningham finally addressed the systematic fines that have followed every episode of her podcast, her message cut through the usual diplomatic spin with striking clarity, like a blade slicing straight through the polished, empty language that so often surrounds these controversies.
There is something seriously wrong with how the W enforces their rules. And I know there's already been a big emphasis on referee inconsistencies, but at the end of the day, the quality of referees is on the WNBA too. Because again, I have no idea where the line is. Because on one hand, I kind of get it. It's normal for a league to fine you if you're going to talk bad about the league or the players in the league. Because that happens all the time in the NBA, NFL, and so on. But on the other hand, why does the league not care about its image when players are standing over and cursing out their opponents on the court? Like, where was the enforcement here? Or where was it here? Or where was it when the whole entire league was bullying your star player? And this stuff is happening all the time in the WNBA, but why is it only called on occasion? Which is why finding Sophie Cunningham every time she has a podcast seems kind of crazy, because the WNBA obviously chooses when and when not to enforce the rule.
Here's what makes Cunningham's situation so alarming. She isn't being fined for spreading misinformation or making inflammatory statements. Instead, she's being penalized for straightforward observations about officiating consistency and league operations. Points that any reasonable fan, journalist, or analyst could raise. The WNBA has effectively built a system where honest commentary about its product leads directly to financial punishment, no matter the accuracy or intent behind the words. The fines themselves highlight just how systematic this campaign against Cunningham has become. She was docked $500 for a lighthearted TikTok in which she merely lip-synced lyrics while referencing referees. She was then hit with a $500 fine for discussing officiating consistency during her very first podcast episode. And most recently, the league handed down yet another undisclosed fine, this time for nothing more than pointing out that referees appeared to give favorable calls to Dallas Wings rookie Paige Buchers.
Do they, when you get fined, do they put like verbatim, like quote here, like this is why you're being fined and this is why it's this much? Or is it like, hey, quit talking shit on us, Venmo us like $1,500?
what happens is they email our GM, and she pulls me aside and she goes, "Come here, Soph, I have to talk to you." And this was in like front of everybody. And I was like, "What did I do now?" And she just smiled and she goes, "Hey, they're gonna fine you again." They're like, I was like, I even told them, I even credited them that their job was hard. I did say that, and I said that I would not be good at it. I did say that. Like, look at the whole picture. What are we doing?
Let's be honest about what this conversation is really about. It's not about upholding league standards or protecting reputations. It's about an organization so consumed with controlling its public image that it's willing to financially punish its own athletes for voicing observations that millions of fans make every single night. The WNBA's treatment of Sophie Cunningham has been disgraceful. Rather than engaging with the very real concerns she's raised, issues like officiating consistency, expansion planning, and league operations, the league has chosen to enforce what is essentially a financial gag order. That's what makes Cunningham's case so alarming, it shines a light on a disturbing reality. The WNBA has created an environment where players are too afraid to speak truthfully about their own league, because honesty comes with immediate and costly consequences.
Cunningham tweeted about getting fined, basically saying that she thinks it's laughable and that the league probably has bigger issues they should be focusing on. Now, WNBA officiating has faced major scrutiny all season long from some of the league's biggest stars and coaches. You can find a ton of articles about it online where they're all calling for more consistency. One of the more quotable examples came from Angel Reese after the Chicago Sky lost to the Minnesota Lynx on July 6th. Reese said that the officiating has to be fixed. She said, "I don't give a you-know-what if I get fined because that stuff is cheap and I'm tired of this stuff." You get the point. Commissioner Kathy Engelbert addressed the officiating ahead of the All-Star game last weekend. She said that it is something that the league is continuing to work on and that they are on it. Engelbert mentioned that
Cunningham's willingness to take fine after fine just to keep telling her fans the truth has revealed a system more focused on silencing dissent than addressing legitimate concerns. "You fining me $500 isn't going to stop me. Then I'll get fined for that, and fined for this, and the fines will just keep coming," Cunningham said on her podcast, making it clear she fully understands the league's tactics. This is not a player who wandered into controversy by accident. This is an athlete making a deliberate, conscious choice, valuing honesty and transparency over the comfort of staying quiet and protecting her wallet. The response from fans to the WNBA's treatment of Cunningham speaks volumes about the state of the league and what people truly crave in professional sports: honesty. Social media lit up almost instantly, with posts like, "This league is so messed up. I hate the WNBA sometimes. Sophie, keep calling out their nonsense." Comments like these flooded timelines as word of her latest fine spread. What's clear is that fans aren't just standing behind Cunningham, they're beginning to turn against the league itself, which they increasingly view as dishonest, insecure, and more concerned with silencing truth than fixing real problems.
She'll happily pay those fines. I think they're only fining like $200 or something. It's something crazy. Like Sophie Cunningham is making millions this year. Players don't get fined for speaking on one another, but every single player in the history of pro basketball has criticised officiating and fined for it. No, she keeps doing the same thing, getting fined for it. She literally said Paige is a good whistle. That is what she said. She said Paige, the Paige fans, my God, Paige fans are fucking nutjobs.
Let's take a moment to break down just how short-sighted the WNBA's approach looks from a business standpoint. Sophie Cunningham has quickly become one of the most charismatic and engaging personalities in women's basketball. She's cultivated a massive social media following, built a strong connection with fans, and created content that actually drives engagement, something the league has struggled to achieve on its own. Her podcast has turned into must-listen material for WNBA supporters hungry for authentic, unfiltered perspectives from inside the game. And yet, instead of embracing her as a marketing goldmine, the WNBA has chosen to treat her like a liability. The contrast with other professional leagues couldn't be clearer. In the NBA, when players criticize officiating, they might be fined, but the penalties are proportional to their multi-million-dollar salaries, and typically only come after comments that are genuinely inflammatory. In the WNBA, by comparison, players like Cunningham are being slapped with fines in the hundreds or thousands of dollars for remarks so tame they wouldn't even raise eyebrows in another league. But here's the most troubling piece of this entire saga: it's no longer just about Cunningham's individual fines. It's about the culture the league is creating. By financially punishing players for harmless observations, the WNBA has fostered an environment of fear around honest discourse. Multiple insiders have already confirmed that Cunningham isn't alone. Other players share her frustrations about officiating and league operations. The difference? They're too afraid to speak up, because they've seen what happens when someone dares to tell the truth.
She literally, when I tell you, y'all, I literally feel like they are just coming for her, because I feel like she should be able to say what she wants to say on her podcast. But that's just me. That's just how I feel. Then they came and then it came an earlier $500 penalty. I guess for a TikTok video, she was mocking the referees and lip singing. That was funny. So now I got a question for y'all. Do you think that she should be able to say what she want on her own podcast? Or do you feel like, she should just shut it down and, stop bothering them with all this and that?
The truth is, Cunningham's fans now have options that didn't exist before she launched her podcast. They've already shown they'll follow her for one reason: authentic content and honest commentary about the league they care about. The question isn't whether her supporters will stick by her if the fines keep coming; they will. The real question is whether the WNBA can withstand the reputational damage it keeps inflicting on itself by trying to silence its most genuine voice. Cunningham's willingness to take on financial penalties just to speak openly has given fans something they didn't even know they were missing: a player who refuses to be bullied by the league office. But her treatment has also exposed just how broken the system has become. When the league's first instinct is to punish rather than listen. When fans cheer a player more for her willingness to call out hypocrisy than for her actual play on the court. When social media erupts in support of someone enduring fines instead of celebrating league milestones. When authenticity becomes a liability instead of an asset. At that point, it's clear, the WNBA has completely lost the plot.
The amount of traction that episode was getting, folks were saying that she could pay that off just from her YouTube monetization. And so this is just interesting because I've said before that I really wish the WNBA as well as other sports leagues would lean in to the athlete-owned media platforms, because fans are a lot more interested in hearing the perspective of people who actually play the sport than just spectators and people on the outside. So the fact that they are penalizing her for showcasing her frustrations, even though tons of players have done this, post-game interviews or just talked about it on the internet in general, is very interesting.
The WNBA has managed to turn what should have been a celebration of player authenticity into a cautionary tale of organizational overreach. Sophie Cunningham's Show Me Something podcast should have been welcomed as the exact type of content that strengthens fan loyalty and offers unique insights from someone living the league experience every day. Instead, we're nearing a tipping point where the league's attempts to silence her could spectacularly backfire. Since her podcast launched, the pattern of fines has only escalated, with every episode sparking new anxiety in the league office about what she might reveal next. Rather than engaging with her concerns, the WNBA has responded with tone-deaf punishments, prioritizing message control over meaningful dialogue. What this saga really highlights is the league's complete inability to embrace authentic player voices. The WNBA is sitting on a goldmine of organic, player-driven content, stories and perspectives that resonate more powerfully with fans than any polished marketing campaign. And yet, instead of leveraging that authenticity, the league has chosen to weaponize fines, effectively turning honesty into a financial liability. It's a short-sighted strategy that threatens to alienate both players and fans alike.
So the entire league can talk shit about Caitlin, but Sophie can't talk shit to Paige. No. And that's the funniest thing, is that Angel Reese can say some people have a special whistle about Caitlin Clark in a public press conference. And it's selective fining. That's the problem. Like, Kelsey Plum has not been fined this year, and Kelsey Plum has literally just stopped entire press conferences to complain about the referees. Apparently Stephanie White didn't get fined when Marina Mabrey knocked Caitlin on her ass, and then Sophie Cunningham took down JC Sheldon. Apparently Stephanie White didn't get, and Mazian did not get fined for both of them going mad at the referee.
Cunningham has remained remarkably composed throughout this entire ordeal, continuing to offer thoughtful, measured commentary even as she's fined again and again for voicing basic observations. But at some point, no player should be expected to shoulder endless financial punishment simply for telling fans what they themselves are seeing and experiencing. The writing is already on the wall, everyone can see it, except for WNBA leadership. Fans have openly rallied behind Cunningham's right to speak freely, media voices are questioning the league's priorities, and players are quietly watching to see whether honest discourse is even possible in this environment. Yet the WNBA persists, acting as though silencing its most authentic voice somehow benefits the brand. In reality, Sophie Cunningham has given fans something they didn't even realize they were missing: a player willing to tell the truth regardless of the financial consequences. But even the most committed truth-teller can't repair systemic flaws alone. She can't single-handedly change a culture that treats honesty as a threat rather than an asset. She can't force a league to embrace transparency when its leadership seems determined to tighten its grip on every narrative instead of facing real issues head-on.
Only is going to push her even more to share her perspectives and share her point of view. And that's going to get her some partnerships. That's going to get her business opportunities, because again, nobody really knows what these players go through unless you're in their position. Unless you're in that position. For those who don't know, she plays for the Indiana Fever. But I love that she is voicing her concerns. I think the only way for change to happen is for you to vocalize what needs to be changed and to have it at the forefront. And she just may be the person to help further push these types of conversations ahead. So listen, let's all support Sophia, watch the first episode. And I'm excited to see what else she's talking about, because this...
The tragic irony is that the WNBA had, in Sophie Cunningham's podcast, exactly what they claim to be searching for. An authentic player voice, content that naturally engages fans, and honest commentary that sparks meaningful discussion about the league itself. What we're seeing in Cunningham's treatment goes far beyond disciplinary action. It's a test of what the WNBA truly values. Does the organization want to be known for encouraging authenticity, or for silencing it? The decision they're making could not be clearer. And fans are paying attention, taking note of the league's real priorities, and questioning whether those priorities align with the growth and credibility women's basketball deserves.